The first dawn did not merely break, it resonated. Adam, the first of his kind, stands at the precipice of a world freshly spoken into being. He draws a breath, and the air is thick, rich with a concentration of life-giving gases that our weary modern atmosphere can scarcely recall. Within him, the machinery of life responds with effortless power as his lungs, pristine and powerful, capture the heavy oxygen. His heart, a pump of such exquisite design that it has not yet known the friction of age, propels it through miles of shimmering vessels. He looks at his hands, watching the sunlight catch the fine details of his skin, and for the first time, he begins to process the sheer audacity of his own existence. Every movement he makes is a symphony of biological precision. As Adam reaches out to part the heavy emerald fronds of a fern as tall as a house, the synapses in his brain fire with the speed of light. There is no lag, no fog, and no error, for he is a child of the first age, walking through a sanctuary where the spiritual and the physical are not yet separated by the great fracture. He watches a massive, winged marvel glide silently above the canopy, its wingspan stretching 20 feet, defying the gravity of a world that feels more substantial and intentional than our own. Adam is not just surviving. He is the sovereign of a biological empire, the information problem. But as he walks, he is doing more than observing. He is experiencing the weight of an instruction manual so complex that it defies the very dust from which he was formed. The ancient scrolls of Genesis record this exact moment as the breath of life entering man, the moment the code was set in motion. This isn't just a story, it's history. In modern science, we have run into a wall that cannot be climbed by time or chance, the information problem. Inside the nucleus of every cell in Adam's body lies a molecule called DNA, which for decades we were told was a simple chemical string. We now know it is a high-level digital language, possessing grammar, syntax, and algorithmic intent. If you were to walk into a forest today and find a high-powered computer sitting on a mossy log, you would not assume the moss and the lightning produced the software over millions of years. You would look for the programmer. The code within Adam is not just a sequence, it is a system of irreducible complexity. This means every part, the DNA, the RNA, the protective cell membrane, and the protein workers that read the code had to exist simultaneously. If you remove one piece, the whole machine fails, because you cannot evolve the code if the machine to read the code doesn't exist yet. In Adam, every piece was present, perfect, and screaming of design. The fossil record, the Cambrian Explosion. When we turn to the forensic field of geology today, we find a staggering confirmation of this sudden arrival of complex life. Locked in the stone of the deepest fossil layers is a phenomenon known as the Cambrian Explosion, a moment in the Earth's history where complex life appears out of nowhere, fully formed and highly specialized. In these layers, we find creatures like the trilobite. These weren't primitive blobs, but possessed compound lenses and sophisticated nervous systems that appeared as if by a divine command. Secular science struggles to find the missing links that should lead up to these creatures, as there are no half-developed eyes or partially formed limbs in these layers. The stone remembers what the Bible records. Life did not climb a slow ladder of accidents. It burst onto the scene in a riot of perfect information. This is the abrupt appearance that fits the Genesis record far better than the Darwinian tree, the behemoth, and the ancient memory. Adam begins his first great task, the naming of the living. He finds himself standing before a creature of immense power, a behemoth whose presence shakes the very ground. He watches the way the muscles of its thighs move like cables of woven steel, and as he searches for a name, his mind taps into a library of information that is already preloaded into his consciousness. He isn't learning language by accident. He is uncovering the shimmering chemical language that already defines his reality. This specific creature, described in the ancient book of Job as having a tail like a cedar tree, is a forensic match for the sauropods we find in the fossil record. Why does every major civilization, from the Greeks to the Persians, share a universal memory of a time when the earth gave fruit freely and giant dragons or behemoths lived alongside men. From the Babylonian tablets to the legends of the Far East, there is a haunting, universal memory of a golden age. Why does every culture remember a time they never saw? Because the memory is etched into the very history we inherited from our traveler. Genetic entropy, the clock of decay. Adam stops to drink from a pool, kneeling on the smooth, sun-warmed stones at the water's edge. As he looks at his reflection, he sees a being designed for eternity, with skin that is flawless and eyes bright with an intelligence that has not been dimmed by the struggle for survival. But even here, the first shadows are beginning to stretch. He notices a leaf that has been torn by the wind and fallen into the pool. It does not stay vibrant, but begins to curl at the edges as the vibrant green fades into a dull brown. Physical science calls it entropy, the law that energy and information inevitably move from order to disorder. In our biology, this is known as genetic entropy. Think of Adam's DNA as a pristine, first-generation digital file, where every time that file is copied from father to son, small typos called mutations are added. Today, we carry thousands of these typos, which explains why the ancient records, like the Sumerian king lists found on the Weld-Blundell prism, speak of the first rulers living for nearly 1,000 years. Modern geneticists have actually tracked these mutations backward using molecular clocks. When we measure the rate of decay in mitochondrial DNA, it points back to a single woman at the beginning of human history, a mitochondrial Eve, living only a few thousand years ago, not hundreds of thousands. We aren't getting better, we are winding down. Adam was at the peak, and we are living in the echoes of his vitality, the archaeology of the superior man. As Adam moves deeper into the woodland, he encounters a creature of startling grace, the original ancestor of the great cats. He reaches out, his hand disappearing into the thick, golden fur of its neck. There is no snarl and no flash of predatory instinct, because the machinery of life in this creature is tuned to a different frequency. This peaceful coexistence is echoed in the sacred history of every major continent. It also explains a mystery that baffles modern archaeology, the sheer brilliance of ancient man. When we look at the ruins of Göbekli Tepe or the massive stones of Baalbek, we see precision that our modern tools struggle to replicate. If man started as a primitive hunter-gatherer, how did he possess the astronomical and mathematical knowledge to build the pyramids and the megaliths of the ancient world? The biblical model provides the answer. They were the immediate descendants of a traveler who possessed a superior biological mind. They didn't evolve into intelligence. They were the brilliant sons of a perfect father, still carrying the remnants of a biological power we have long since lost. The law of kinds. Adam follows the banks of the Tigris, where the water is so clear it looks like liquid diamond. He watches the fish darting through the reeds and notices that every creature follows a strict internal boundary. They reproduce after their kind. This is the great law of the code, which in modern biology we see as the orphan gene problem. Every major family of animals has unique genes that have no ancestors in other species. The code has borders. It allows for variety of the lion and the tiger, the wolf and the fox, but it never allows one kind to jump to another. The information is walled off. A cat remains a cat, and a man remains a man. The shimmering language allows for adaptation, but it never creates new, complex information out of thin air. This is the forensic wall that separates the biblical kinds from the Darwinian tree. The Great Fracture. As the sun begins to set on Adam's first days of discovery, casting long amber rays across the landscape, he finds a place to rest among the roots of a tree that seems to pulse with a low, golden light. He feels the weight of his responsibility as the steward of this information and the guardian of the code. He thinks of the woman, Eve, who walks beside him, her own genetic blueprint, a perfect complement to his own. Together, they are the carriers of the human blueprint. but we know what is coming. We know that the great fracture is looming on the horizon, the moment when the wind down will accelerate and the typos will begin to pile up in the instruction manual. We are the inheritors of that broken world. Archaeology today is the study of that decay, where we dig through charred remains and weathered tablets, all of them trying to find their way back to this moment. In conclusion, Adam closes his eyes, and the sounds of the garden, the rushing water, and the distant call of the great birds become a lullaby. He is the first page of a book that has been torn and smudged by history, but the brilliance of the first chapter is still visible to those who know where to look. The sudden appearance of life in the stone, the staggering digital code in our cells, the universal memories of a perfect past, and the rapid decay of our own genome all point to the same truth. The Bible does not just offer a story of our origin. It provides the only forensic map that fits the territory. The evidence is written in the stone, and it is written in our very cells. But what do you think? Does the staggering complexity of the information of life point you back to a master designer? If this journey through the foundations of history has opened your eyes, let us know in the comments by typing the word Amen. We read every single one. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss our next investigation into the secrets of the ancient world as we explore the moment the first shadow fell. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.